Hello, everybody. You are listening to 94.9 Radio Western, and this is Christian. You're listening to The Emperor's Mocha. We have an interesting show today. We have a guest here. We have rapper Insyt. Say hello to the listeners here. Yeah, so we will be talking about authenticity in music and the balance between art and chasing funds and everything. We'll be with you after the little jazz music break here on 94.9 Radio Western.
Mustaches, rock top lashes. I've been rocking Balmain since mic check. 27 ain't see the white light yet. Airship PEs getting mic checks. Louis socks, yellow fives off white. Collision car with my blue eyes white. 2054 on my tents with the kite. Got it out the mud, so it's mud and it's Sprite. Never satisfied and I want it all my life. Canary yellow 27 sweats. Yeah. Ride Bugattis through the Johnson homes. Yeah. She rock a city, look like Toblerone. This rock star shit is in my chromosome. Rolling 7 different sides up, I'm in the zone. Apple days won't be a minute long. We won't ever reach a zenith or a pinnacle. Remember school kill punch full of minerals. 277 having attack of the clones. Pop a perk for my back and my bones. In Japan, called cherry, I'm practically home. Eggshell, off-white force, look like acetone. Icebox, Gucci links over rag and bone. Loungewear when I spend time back at home. And my picture perfect 10, Lil Junior John. Mickey Moto silverware, get our spooning on. Now I'm finna chrome heart some motherfucking sink. I'ma go to Elliot, motherfucking day. Inhale the blunt twice, but I don't blink. Just living in the moment, so I don't think. Long live J. Scott, condolences to the homies. Loot match, what he sold me, so I'm smoking coast. Get Camille on the phone, I'm one and only. Dude still the secret weapon, the lonely she shown. Aquapana over Arrowhead. Yellow diamonds look like Lemonhead. March 6th, I was getting in. Red Goins cop, woke up the wrong side of the bed. We turn baguettes into emeralds. Bro, copping pumpkin diamonds, finna shit on niggas. I ain't even metal trying, but I'm still at nigga. Turn my humble savage up, they thought my ego big. I did it for the planet like an ego nigga. Know the legend and the name before you need it. A work ethic is free, getting in my zone. Sakai turn to 1, I gotta make it home. Slightly off, but it's perfect, flawless. Independent, Saudi money like it's fucking awesome. Defy gravity, inertia, I'm basically lawless. I ain't even psyched out, I'm just getting off. Yeah. I'm just getting off. Oh, little dudes, I'm just getting off. I'm just getting off. Oh. Getting off. Yeah. Money. That 27 CO Canary Yellows. Let's get it. Only at RSP College. Yeah.
Okay, we are back. So I wanted to talk about I've seen a lot of you've seen people trying to emulate different aesthetics and stuff from the past and everything online. That's been a very big trend lately. People going back for like Y2K stuff and people going maybe goth stuff in the 80s or whatever, going back to the 2000s even now. I even see like early 2010s aesthetic coming back, and it's kind of crazy because like you're there for that. But I've been recently thinking about how much we should even be going for that, like how much we should be going back and recreating those types of atmospheres and vibes. How do you kind of navigate the world where it's a lot of old aesthetics coming back? How do you navigate your own authenticity with that?
Well, I think you got to understand the past in order to move forward to a certain degree, especially when it comes to like culture. But I think it makes sense because it's only natural, especially with an art, to go back to the places where it was like the original conception of these things, whether it's like hip hop, music, or whatever. Like, I think that's why you see like it's literally aesthetic, like whether it's like baggy jeans or like vinyl or like and you were even saying like the 2010s, like 2010s pop or whatever. Like, we arguably live in like the most unauthentic time right now, to be honest with you. And it's probably gonna get like gradually worse, to be honest, just like as technology evolves. So I don't know, I think it makes sense that we all collectively are kind of, you know, romanticizing whether it's the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, 2010s.
How do you think an artist coming up now would navigate creating their own style with all of these kind of sounds existing and these remakes and everything? How do you navigate that? Because you released your own album recently. What style would you think, like what inspired you to release this?
Facts. I think it really comes down to your why. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's the most I think it's easy to get wrapped up in the how, especially when it comes to like releasing art and how it's gonna be portrayed and everything like that. But like, especially with my album, it was just what I needed at that time. It was like I didn't have a choice. I had to say the things that I had to say. So I think the why is the most important thing, because if you know your why and you know your purpose and you know the reason behind why you're making what you're making, the audience will feel that. There's a rapper I listen to, a Kai Solo. He's like one of my favorite rappers, and he has this one line. He's like, if it's real, people will at least attempt to comprehend it. Okay. That's so true.
I think that's facts. I think one of the main things that make the older aesthetics really appealing is the authenticity.
Yeah.
Because if you went back, let's say we're looking at, you know, a goth girl in the 80s, right?
Yeah.
The goth girl in the 80s, everything she would have been doing would have been what she sees in magazines and on TV and everything, and trying to mimic that the best she can with the stuff she has right there. Like, she can only go to the mall in her local city.
Yeah.
She can only, you know, buy the stuff around here. She can't go online and look up what they were doing 30, 40 years ago and then go online and get stuff that were made in other places and everything and put them together. All she has is right now. So I was thinking about like people who would try to emulate what the goth girl was doing back then. You know, they would say, oh, I love 80s goth style, and look up maybe what she was doing. You could never recreate what she was doing by trying to go back and try to emulate that goth style. You'd have to make a goth style with the whatever we have in the 2020s. But how do you think, how would you block out the noise, I guess? Because if you look up, you know, goth girl online, you're going to see a bunch of stuff from 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Do you think you should block it out, or do you think now that old stuff is a part of what, like that is as if that's like the magazine the goth girl would be looking at in the 80s? Do you think that's all a part of what would make the 2020s, whatever you were doing, authentic?
I think it's like all a cycle culturally. Like that goth girl in the 80s goes into her magazine and is inspired by somebody else.
Yeah.
And the originality of somebody else.
Yeah.
And like the version of that, I think, because I'm 24,
Yeah.
and I grew up in the 2010s, and I think a lot of people can attest to this. Is like most of like the cultural influence that I had was on a screen.
Yeah.
Like whether it's like digging on YouTube just for like interviews of people I think are cool, or just like you know, and that was my magazine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's how I kind of got my like got inspired by whatever. But I think it's just like I think that's kind of the way people operate. Like you get inspired by something and then you maybe want to mimic it.
Yeah.
And then in the process of mimicking it, you find ways to make it your own, or at least you should try to find ways to make it your own. And then in turn, someone can be inspired by you, and then it's like the same thing. Versus like you're straight up just trying to like jack, you know, the style of somebody else completely. Like I think the goth girl in the 80s was at least trying to be herself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is the important thing.
Or she was forced to be herself. Where do you think the line is between, because now you would see, if you go on TikTok or anything, you would see like aesthetics becoming popular.
Yeah.
Like, I know, clean girl aesthetics, or recently I saw like Sade aesthetics. And just like, it was trying to recreate whatever vibe people think this particular artist has. Where do you think the line is between, you know, you're just trying to recreate with what you have and you're trying to live in that world? Like you're trying, like you kind of have a parasocial relationship with whatever aesthetic is online.
It's like, I think it comes down to the relationship you have with yourself. I guess like you have to be comfortable with yourself enough to not feel the need to dive into the first like aesthetic that comes in front of you. You know what I mean? Like you need a healthy boundary between like you gotta know who you are, because if you know who you are, then it's like you don't have to try so hard.
Yeah.
I feel like growing up, I was definitely trying to like be like, let me attempt to be somebody else, whether it's like how I dress. And I guess in some ways that was me being myself, really. But eventually you reach a point where it's like, no, I wouldn't rather be anybody else. I don't want to subscribe to like another fad or another trend or another aesthetic. Like I'm comfortable in myself enough where like this is all I need. You know what I mean? I think that just comes with growing. You know, it's something I'm still going through. I'm sure something you're still going through. It's like, it's just life.
I definitely agree. With the artists particularly, since artists have to know so much more about themselves to make, you know, art that really resonates with other people, how do you think, how much did you have to tap into yourself to make this art, this recent album? Like, how much did you have to go further into every single thing you like with music making, or everything you like to look at with visual art and like styling and dressing? Or did you kind of just stay just with the music? Did you make a whole kind of brand for yourself?
I think with the music I just came out with, if I had it my way, I would have made a piece of music that was definitely like artistically based off like clothing aesthetics or like what I was like watching at the time. But it was like so emotional that I really just had to be aware. I had a younger homie asking me about writing, actually, and I was telling him like the key is like self-awareness. Like you have to know what's going on with yourself, what's going on in the world. And I think you got to try your best to be objective.
Objective in what way? Like objective looking into what?
Just like, in our own minds, we'll all play a one. You know what I mean? We're all like the hero of our own story. But you got to understand when you might be the villain in someone else's. And be able to understand that perspective, accept that perspective, and move accordingly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Versus like, because that's when you become delusional. And if you're delusional, like I said before, the authenticity is in the music. Like people can hear that. People can. especially today, it's like so
Yeah.
like, palpable, like just like it's like this is not real.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's time for that. Like sometimes it's time to turn up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And time to like I don't want to think right now. I just want to like do whatever. But you just gotta try to be aware within art, because that shows. I think
so too.
Yeah.
Okay, so what about back to the influences? How does being a black man influence? Like, how does the stereotype of being a black man? How did that influence your music? You're going and you're being a rapper. How did you kind of like draw the line between, okay, this is what people think, this is the widespread belief, and then like this is actually me? How do you kind of balance between, because I know for me personally, there was a time, everybody, I wanted to be the Fresh Prince,
Yeah.
it was either the Fresh, you had a couple of categories to fit in.
You had like 5 options.
Yeah, you had 5 options. You weren't one of them. Like, are you a black guy?
Yeah,
Like,
people like, who are you? Like,
exactly.
This isn't allowed. You can't. That's hilarious.
So how did you kind of draw that line and be like, okay, like there's a plethora of types of rappers, and this is me, and all these things are influences of people trying to say this is what I should be. Yeah. How did that play into the album?
I think it was like being a black person changes the way that I maneuver this world, especially this side of the world, to be honest with you. And I'm not gonna lie, like any black man and like my father and my father before him and my father before him, like there's a certain amount of unlearning that has to be done. Cause like I was talking to my aunt about this the other day, that just like really there's a lot of things that are just like hardwired in our DNA.
Yeah.
Whether it's anxiety or whether it's the way that we view ourselves, just because the foundation in which we were brought up on this side of the world was built upon anxiety.
Yeah.
And being worried and not knowing what's coming next. You know what I mean? So I can't worry about whatever connotations put on me because I am a rapper and because I am a black man, because I'm doing work that is so much more important than whoever's opinion on, you know what I mean? And that's something I had to deal with, especially starting out. Just like, I want to rap, and then you got to deal with the fact that people are gonna look at you like a rapper.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? But the work, like I really see it as cultural work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just like with what I'm putting out there, and because I really am trying to make a change. And yeah.
So did you have to like kind of rethink how rappers were? Like, was you make, I don't know, I kind of hate rap music genres.
No, I'll go crazy.
But this is the Earl Sweatshirt and Mike category. Was there a time before, like, did you want to be a rapper before you knew about this type of music?
Man, I was writing songs in like 4th grade.
Okay. So you're writing songs in 4th grade.
I was deep in like my Eminem bag when I was
Okay.
Yeah.
So did you have to, when you were just starting out, was there a time where you had to sit and be like, I'm not, what was popular in 4th grade? Drake, Kanye.
Yeah, there was like 2010. Yeah.
So was there a time where you had to be like, okay, this is popular, but this is not really me? Like, what was the tipping point?
Well, the reality was I wasn't even listening to like whatever music was on the radio. Like, really, I was listening to Michael Jackson. Like, I was listening to what me and my mom used to go to like the market on the weekends and shoot heavy Tony Braxton. Just like, and these are the it wasn't until I was on the internet on my own and I could look up things where I discovered like explicit Eminem songs, and it was like, yo, this is tight. But yeah, it's like all a culmination of just like stuff I heard growing up, you know what I mean? So like just like a lot of black music like a lot of soul, a lot of spinners, Delphonics.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and it shows, I think, in my music now. So,
What would you say for someone who was trying to kind of find, what type of, I wouldn't say what type of black they should be, but what type of music would feel authentic to them? Because there's a lot of, you'll hear Playboi Carti and he'll be like his favorite rapper was MF Doom, but none of his music.
that's so tight.
Yeah, but none of his music sounds like that. Or you'll hear I forgot, I don't have another example, but like a lot of rappers, their favorite music or the music they listen to all the time isn't necessarily the music they put out. So do you think that makes it? Do you think you think you should be making the music you like the most, or is the music you like and the music you feel the most authentic to you not necessarily the same thing?
Yeah, it almost comes down to like your goth girl example. It's like you find what moves you, and then it inspires you, and you use that inspiration to kind of cultivate your own identity, really. Like, who knows? Cardi might have been trying to like make MF Doom songs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It might have been like, I know with me, like I definitely, oh my gosh, so many times I tried to make a song that sounded like another song.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, or just like, and then you just get that feeling like, this has potential, but this isn't really what I want to make. This doesn't really sound like, you know what I mean? And it just comes with time and being passionate about the art, I think, and being persistent with it and practicing and trying and keep taking things in. And eventually you kind of grow into yourself. You know what I mean? Because I can like, I'm very proud to say that just like, especially the album I just dropped, it's so me. You know what I mean? Like, it's so, it's like you could put it in whatever box of like, oh, it's similar to this, but in my mind, it's like, it's like in my mind, it really is one of one. You know?
Okay, yeah, I get that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember when Joey Badass and the it's Beast Coast, when
Beast
they were
Coast.
coming up, there was a lot of people calling them they're trying to remake the 90s and everything, Capital Steals and everything, and they would say, we're not remaking the 90s. This is what like is authentic to us and everything. So, do you feel like? How do you feel about artists who are making music that kind of feels really reminiscent of an aesthetic or an era that has already kind of passed? Do you kind of agree with the Beast Coast, like all the rappers? Do you agree with what they were saying? Or do you think that it has to be more like the Cardi example where, you like something, you like a bunch of things, and then it's like a combination of everything you like?
I think with that example, it's like it's like it was always there in terms of like that aesthetic of music and that kind of rap. And I think because it's not on the forefront of just commercially, people are super quick to be like, oh, this sounds like, oh, they're trying to throw it back. They're trying to bring it back to like that type of music didn't go anywhere. You know what I mean? Like, it's like it's just like the quote unquote, I hate like underground. You know what I mean? Like the quote unquote, but like it didn't go anywhere. And I think that's the beautiful thing about hip hop though, is like hip hop at its foundation will always be counterculture. You know what I mean? It'll always be kind of whatever you want to use, kind of grimy, kind of like not on the forefront, I guess.
Okay, we're going to get back into this topic after the ad and music break. We're going to play some Solange for you guys after some jazz.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Inferno, altar, Belenos, Canopus, Seibo, Tifta, Inferno, Jima, Galina, Bantar, Mishida, Meka, Inferno, Ushaba, Propus, Situla, Talita, Tuban, Inferno.
getting cat called, torturing squads, get a bad call. More than the guap, could afford to get blackballed. Sort of a pos, that's all that you asked for. All in this time will fall through the trap door. All to remind me of horrors from the past, Lord. Trauma behind, I'm crawling with the mask torn. False had to find me, balling with your last born. Untimely, they threw the map storm, but you still find me. Or with the gas torch, a zombie missing stitches on a passport. A squad supply while I'm seeing life half short. Can't recline, but I ain't feeling much fast forward. A true surprise, and I still could be a bad sport. Hard to sympathize with. I'm taking dash torch, but now I do the firing. And take a laugh for it. It seems inspiring that you would be a task force. Still admire it.
Okay, we are back. So for the second half, I kind of want to talk about artistry and the balance between, you know, seeking, you know, funds and everything and keeping the authenticity. So kind of a general point. What do you think of it, the topic, just generally?
I think it's like you need to eat and you need to make money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's like, if it's the driving force to making music, like I'm gonna make this and that, and then I'm gonna get rich and I'm gonna get famous, and then it's like, you're definitely in it for all the wrong reasons. You know what I mean?
How do you balance between, you know, this song is going to be a hit and this is the music I really want to make? Because for me personally, the music I love to make is very atmospheric and very like atmospheric jazz or even atmospheric ambient music and all that stuff. That's the kind of music I naturally like to play around with. But for the album I was working on, it was it's more house. It's like still like deep house-ish, but like even in the K-Tronada sense, it's still poppy, right? So I was sitting and I was trying to think of poppy chord progressions. And it was like driving me insane trying to come up with these chord progressions, because I'm thinking, I'm making them and I'm like, okay, no, you know, I've heard this before. Or I'm making them and I'm like, this is not creative enough. And it was just so much of that versus just sitting down and I'm playing, which is what I like to do. I'm sitting down playing, and then sometimes something will be catchy or interesting to me, but it was never, I'm trying to make something catchy. So how do you think you should, as an artist, ever kind of fall into the vein of, this is a catchier thing or this is a poppier thing? Or do you think art should mainly be like a pure expression, and then if that expression is picked up on, you know, so be it?
In my opinion, I think that art should always be authentically yourself. And I think there are subgenres dedicated to finding what's poppy and finding what's going to hit and finding what's going to quote unquote blow up. But you know, I think what's more important about trying to find what's popular, because if you're authentically yourself in your art, I think you're more likely to find community and find the fan base that you're looking for, versus if you're chasing to get acceptance from the masses. You know what I mean? Because I'd always prefer like a small group of people who really vibe with what I'm putting out, because I'm just being true to myself, versus, you know, I'm trying to blow up on TikTok and just trying to find something that you know what I mean? So it's like you gotta, I think you always gotta be yourself, because that's what the people are gonna buy into.
Do you think art should be hard to make?
No.
You don't think so?
No.
You don't think?
Well, it is hard to make, but it's like, it should be, bro. Because the thing is, like, about it is like, I'm an artist. Like, I don't do music. Like, it's who I am.
Yeah.
Like, if you tell me to stop doing music, you're telling me to stop breathing, basically.
Yeah.
So it's like it comes. the process of it comes like inhaling and exhaling. And I'm not to say that it should be like that for everybody, because it's like there's so many different avenues of it. But I think to a certain extent it should be kind of a smooth process. But
Smooth process.
I think it's a mix of that and also understanding when you got to dig in and get uncomfortable. You know what I mean? And try something new.
So the difficulty would be more in self-reflection versus the act of making art. Is that what you think?
I think depending on where you're at, because at least with me, now I'm at the point where it's like the hard part is in like the self-reflection and in the why and in the what emotion do I want to invoke versus like how do I chop the sample, like, you know what I mean? Like I'm continually trying to get better and to work at it, but like I've reached a point where it's like I could get the feeling that I want to get, you know what I mean? So it depends where you're at, you know?
Yeah.
I think.
So that being said, what do you think of like the do you think there is any objectivity in art? Because that was a topic I had a couple weeks ago, and I was talking about how there are, depending on what genre you're doing, there is like these kind of guidelines for the genre. There's never really rules, but it's guidelines. Or you could compare it to what the artist was actually trying to do.
Yeah.
So what do you think on that topic with objectivity?
I think there are no rules in art. And I think in art, objectivity does not exist. I think everything's subjective. Because in my mind, what makes a song beautiful makes art beautiful, I should say, is how well it kind of imitates reality. And how well, like, I have a song on my last album. I have two big ones that are like Joker Card and Black Andromeda are two songs that are like very much invoke feeling just based off sonically, you know what I mean? Like I think if you have you could have a song that sounds ugly. You could have a song that sounds bad. But if the person's feeling bad, is that art not beautiful?
Okay, I see what you're saying.
You know what I mean? It's like,
well, what do you think about, like, say you were attempting to blend The Weeknd and Kaytranada, right? That was your attempt for your album. And you released the album. Do you think it is fair to critique the album based off the objective fact that you were trying to blend these two things? And if you blended them, well enough, like if you had an idea and you didn't visualize the idea to the full extent, do you think it's fair to now critique the album based on how well you visualize an idea that was expressed that you were trying to visualize?
Yeah, it depends on like the angle you're trying to attack it from, I guess. Like if your goal is like, I want this album to give the same vibe as this other album.
Not same vibe, but say you're blending. Say you're blending two.
Yeah.
So you're trying to be like, okay, I want to mix these two albums together, these two sounds together. And now I'm creating it based on, did you mix these two sounds together as what I think you were trying to do? Like, did you achieve what I think you were trying to do with this album? And then rate that scale 1 to 10, whatever.
I think it's a fair assessment to judge the art. But I just think there's so much more at stake. You know what I mean? Yeah, just in terms of like, because I mean, think about it. Ultimately, it isn't up to you in terms of the overall critique of it. Like I don't know. You could be like, I didn't like quite get what I wanted sonically, but then the world could be like, this is amazing. Like, we love this. You know what I mean? Like, you did I think everyone has like their individual vision. You know what I mean, of what they want to try to capture, and I think that perspective is arguably the most important. But I don't think it's the end all be all, in critiquing your own work, I think.
Do you think, Well, not critiquing your own work. How do you think about others critiquing the work? Like what? When on the show I was talking about with Objective Music, I was relating music critics to English teachers, and how when you were reading, Lord of the Flies or whatever, the English teacher was kind of walking you through how you would assess media and like delve into media, and at some point you can be like, okay, I see the ideas they're presenting. Is this a good representation of those ideas? Is it not? Do you think it is fair to use that as a critique? Or do you think that the artist was always right? Do you think that?
Like to use what as a critique?
Okay, so if you were, say we're using Lord of the Flies, right?
Yeah.
The point of the Lord of the Flies was for it was basically an artist critique. It was critiquing British people, British culture, and British boys and everything, which is why the sailor came at the end and was like, I'm surprised English boys would be so would act like this. But that isn't what the general that isn't what everybody took from it. They were kind of taking like, this is what
That's surprising.
But even in my English class, like IB English, they were still saying, this is what society is like, and without laws and everything, society would delve into all this stuff. So do you think now the Lord of the Flies is a worse piece, like a worse quote unquote piece of art, because it did not, like, the general conception or perception of the album, or the general perception of the book was not what the intended message was? That's
the beauty of it, I guess. Like it makes the art, if anything, in my opinion, more impactful, more meaningful, more purposeful. Like there are probably so many examples within like culture of like work that put out with this intention, and it just got totally reconstructed like within society and meant something totally different. And a lot of the times I feel like when that happens, it's probably necessary. You know what I mean?
Interesting.
Like, I feel you do you know Heart of Darkness?
No, what is it?
It's like a book about these guys in the Congo, like during like the violence in the Congo, have to go and basically assassinate one of these guys on like a plantation, and he's like gone crazy or like whatever, and he's like become like a king within the society. And it's like with books like that, it's the same thing. Like I bet the intention that the author had, and just like whether it was just telling a story or whatever, or like all of this media is really teaches you so much about just like the human psyche. And like you could use it to relate to yourself and to understand yourself and to understand your environment so much better. That's, like I said, that's the beauty of it, is it can be perceived in so many different directions a lot of the times. So
okay. So you don't rate music. You don't. How do you review music? I would say, how would you review an album? Say the album we were just playing, the Mike album. How would you review it? Yeah.
I mean, I feel like anyone, I relate music back to myself.
Yeah, back to yourself.
And where I am in my own life. So if it's like, if it catches me at the right time, then I'm probably going to have some good things to say about it. And yeah, I think it's like, even like watching like Mike interviews and hearing him talk about that album, a lot of the times it's like, I didn't know this is the direction he was going in this song. I didn't know this is what, I just off my own perception assumed this. And that's just the beauty of like sharing it. You know what I mean?
Do you think the artist's perception is necessary for you to assess it?
I don't think it's necessary, but I think I could definitely add another layer of understanding. Like I could not listen to like what a lot of my favorite artists have to say about albums I like.
Really?
From that, you know what I mean? Well, because like I said, it's like my own perception, my own cultivation of what it means to me. Like think about nostalgia.
Yeah.
Think about like how all these different aspects play into the way we feel about music. Like I have songs that I love just based off, I heard them when I was like 6.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like it doesn't matter what the song means or what you know what I mean? It reminds me a certain sound, a certain smell, a certain, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It brings that's the thing. It really music, once it's shared, it really becomes yours.
Okay.
I think.
Becomes everybody's individually.
Yes.
Do you think, relating this back to authenticity, do you think the more that you kind of, like the more you kind of develop your authentic self, do you think that now helps you critically assess music? Or do you think that it's two different things?
Like, what do you mean?
Like the more, like you say you had to do all this self-reflection to make the music.
Yeah.
Do you think the self-reflection helps you now critically assess music? Or do you think it doesn't really play a part?
That's a good question. I'd say probably yes, because the self-reflection caused me to understand myself more.
Yeah.
And to be better in tune and more secure in myself. And that, in a lot of ways, allows me to trust my opinions more about music, I guess, and trust my, like...
What do you mean by trust? Elaborate on that.
Like, I feel like growing up, like, your personality growing up a lot of the times is just, like, what you vicariously hear, you know,
Yeah.
whether it's what your parents say or whether it's, like, what you hear on the radio, what you're listening to, and you're, like, you know, you're, like, 9, like, oh, this is what I think about this. And it's, like, you, like, don't... Your brain isn't really developed enough to even have your own, like, sense of individuality and sense of, like, this is what I think about things. So now, like, being this age and also this, like, in this place artistically, I'm more comfortable in myself and I understand myself, and the music kind of shows that. So then that informs the fact that I'm more likely to just trust the way that, like, what I think about things. You know what I mean?
Do you think that creates so you think that creates a bias now to kind of your own self?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
I think because like I'm definitely gonna be like stuck in my ways. You know what I mean? To a certain degree, like any adult is to a certain extent. But it's like, I guess it's only an attempt, you know, to try and stay open and try to stay... Because I think it's really ignorant to assume you get life or to assume you get the world.
Yeah.
Because it'll always throw something at you that you didn't know. You know what I mean? So just always trying to walk around with just an openness, you know what I mean? But also understanding your virtues and understanding, like, where you stand.
So does this mean now that, like, say you took a musical genre you don't necessarily listen to very much, how would you now assess that if kind of the music was getting in the way of the art, for example? So say you didn't like country music, right? You didn't like sonically how country music sounded. How would you now critically review the art now that the thing that's kind of the most defining features of the art is something you don't really like to listen to?
Yeah, I think I would appreciate, honestly, just like the imagery of it and the lyricism, especially with country music, because they'd be so descriptive.
Yeah.
Of like, I was, I don't know, I was in my pickup truck.
Yeah.
Talking to Jesus. I don't know, like, whatever you want to, like, that's a bad example. But they do such a good job of, like, painting you the picture.
Yeah.
And the vibe of, like, they make music that sounds like you're like, you're like with your family drinking a beer, like, you know what I mean? Like, even though I might not like how, like, the snare and the bass and all that comes together, I can still appreciate the like how the art cultivates feeling. You know what I mean?
Do you think there's any value in listening to music you don't necessarily like to kind of expand? Like, okay, so do you think there's value as an artist, one, to listen to music you don't like? And do you think there's value as a music listener to listen to music you don't like? Two questions.
Yeah, it's tough because we all have, like, our own schools of, like, what we like. And I don't really think music should be homework. You know what I mean? It shouldn't be like, let me force myself to sit down and like appreciate this genre, because at the end of the day, there might just be like a mental block where it's like I'm just not feeling this. This just isn't my thing. But I think what is important is, like I said, the initial openness and the initial just willingness to like let me hear this out. Because as long as you have that, I don't know, it might click like the fifth listen.
Yeah.
You know, it might be like, oh, like I'm kind of feeling this now. And yeah, like how many times is like your favorite artist or something drop something, you're like, I don't know, I'm not really feeling this. And then it's like, okay, whether it's maybe you read up about it or you gave it another listen or you just remained open to understanding it, then it's like, oh, okay, maybe I still don't like it, but I have an appreciation for it. Okay, you know what I mean?
Do you think you now should listen to stuff more time? Like, how many listens to an album for you come to kind of an opinion toward it? Like, is there like a grace period where like, okay, first 3 listens, I'm not going to have an opinion at all? Do you have something like that? Or do you first listen, I have an opinion, second listen, different opinion, and you're changing it?
Yeah, I mean, there are no rules from that. It's really just like I listen to it and I'm like, I like this. Or it's like, I don't like this. Oh.
If you don't like it first listen, will you ever come back to it?
Yeah, because it's like a lot of the times the initial reaction isn't real. Like, you think about it, you listen to it for literally the first time.
The first time.
Like, and also you gotta listen to it in different environments. A good example is the Drake album, Honestly Nevermind. Yo, Drake's taking some heat right now. But it's like, I listened to that with my roommates. Like, we were all excited, like, oh, Drake album, like, this is about to be crazy. And we were like, what is this? Yeah. Like, this, and then you, like, go out and it's playing and you're like, I love, like, I get it. Like, this music is great. So it's, there's so many different factors, I guess, like, that determine really, like, how you feel about something. Like, and what it's made for. Like, some music isn't social. Some music isn't meant to be, like, played out and about, and some music is specifically, especially with like K-Tronada, it's like specifically you're supposed to go out and like drink a martini at 4 p.m. at some bar and hear that music. I get that. And be like, this is a vibe, you know, in Miami. You know what I mean? Like, it's like that's what it's made for.
That's the music for. Okay. All right, that is the show today. Do you have anything to say? Any shout outs?
Yeah, man. Shout out. I'm in a collective. Yeah. So I want to shout out just like all these artists: Kodo, Soft Eyes, Kai Banks, Donna Jackson, Una, who owns a brand called Dying to Live. Yeah. Renji.
What's the creative collective called?
For the Tribe.
For the Tribe. Okay.
For the Tribe.
All right. And your recent album?
Yeah, Mikasa Sukasa.
We'll be playing some of that right at the end. We'll be playing Too Cool to Fly and Venus and Serena.
Tight.
All right, that's been today's episode. You're listening to 94.9 Radio Western, and I'll see you guys next week.
Thankful at best, selfish at worst, protecting my neck, projecting the purse, collecting my word, paying my dues, been in my shoes, winning you lose, I'm getting up first, you do or you die, I was rotting in bed, flying my suit. But I chose me instead. I'm too cool to fly, loose screws in my head. Codependent is tight. Stress fractures in my family portrait. Smiling all the time, but wasn't always gorgeous. Hey, make the best of it, but it's left me torn too. I do it for the time I lost, I couldn't afford to lose. Baby, I ain't done, promise I got more to prove. I'm 10 toes, top to the floor like the roof. Lord knows I tried and that's the truth. I guess not enough to finish proof. You ain't about to mark me out, I ain't through. I told you once I do it, through and through. Try to prove, still sign with a smooch. Still walking. Still the information. All of it. Whose information is it?
What we on be like a light switch. LP how I got low. Manifesting silence. Inner peace of optimism. Thoughts that couldn't find me. Bugging about a bunch of isms. Bringing inner violence. Gratitude I dig a bit for truth that's at the bottom. Artifacts I target. Sharpen like a pencil. Granted how I stay solid. Stay on it. Life be like a puzzle, but we not meant to solve it. Memories took real estate and hoping in survival. Feeling real nostalgia. Feelings in a silo. Absence of my family and myself, there was asylum. Heavy as an anvil is in shallow waters. Treading to my tibias bare, we never stalling. We going farther. You playing catch up. Kicking in the high gears, looking like you lost us. Yo, I gotta make one more shout out. Shout out my boy Blake, audio engineer. Shout out Aviation Lane Studios. If you need mixing, mastering, all that, please go to that man. Give him your money.
Where would a fleeing black man go?
You are my everything.
He wanted to escape.
You're my summer, my winter, my fall and spring. You're my
hammers
summer,
through the hard days. Small dose of self-love, I leverage through the long phase. Photon to my sun rays. Feet up like it's Sunday. Make your cheeks blush, heartache tamed a deep rush. I know this not my always. Solitude I stargaze. Improbable the answers to the questions that we got, gang. I guess we chose the hard way. The truth be two-faced. I hold myself accountable. The messes that I did make. In honesty, I like change. Just need a second to adjust and I'll be okay. Incentivize and grow pace. Inventive like a black man. I'm learning to unlearn things. If it's a function and I show face, I'm hunting what I don't know, addressing what I can't pay. You the cloud that's in the bright sky, shimmering like Sirius or Venus in the nighttime, swinging like Serena did and praying for a lifeline. Love that lasts a lifetime. Lunge and get my legs right, yearning to put down pride. Redirect the energy to somewhere I can feel life. Snap me back to salience, remind me you the cloud that's in the bright sky, moving through my thoughts so I'm a wave when you pass by. Shimmering like Sirius or Venus in the nighttime, swinging like Serena did, was praying for a lifeline. Self-love lasts a lifetime.
fall and spring.
You're my summer, my winter, my fall and spring.